There is a war taking place beneath the Sahel, not with bullets, but with drilling rigs. In the dry heart of Burkina Faso, in the dusty Sahel, a giant steel drill has just pierced through a 30-meter thick layer of rock. Suddenly, a powerful burst of pressure sends a stream of clear water shooting into the burning sky. This is not rainwater. It is ancient, pure water, buried for thousands of years and never shown on geological maps. For decades, the world described this region as dead land, a desert destined for permanent drought, dependent on food aid and outside resources. While millions of people were waiting for water from the sky, a young African government decided to search for the solution underground. Ibrahim Traoré, the 38-year-old president, is betting $145 million and his entire political legacy on that strategy. He is tapping into massive reservoirs that earlier colonial engineers never cared to search for. This is the moment a nation stops depending on nature and begins building its own future. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we enter this fight for survival. The Sahel is not just a strip of land. It is a harsh climate belt stretching 5,400 kilometers where desertification is negatively affecting the lives of 135 million people. Burkina Faso lies right at the center of that harshness. It is a landlocked country with degraded, cracked soil, where more than 80% of the population depends entirely on agriculture. The paradox is this: rainfall here has become an unpredictable factor. According to climate data, this region is warming 1.5 times faster than the average for the rest of the world. In the capital, Ouagadougou, the average dry season temperature has often reached 45 to 48 degrees Celsius. Intense rainstorms appear for only a few weeks, then immediately evaporate, leaving behind 10 months of severe drought. According to World Bank reports, more than 90% of rainfall in the Sahel evaporates or runs off before it can seep down into groundwater. This creates local water shortages across low-lying land. The result is a crisis loop: farmers lose harvests, livestock weaken, and poverty becomes a source of internal security instability. International organizations look at the Sahel and offer only one solution: long-term food aid. But there is a truth no one wants to mention: the problem was never the amount of rain. The problem was a system of governance that abandoned this land for a century. Why was the water there, but no one drilled for it? The answer does not lie in technology. It lies in geopolitical history. During the period of rule, the old authorities focused only on extracting export resources, such as cotton, gold, and minerals. Domestic irrigation systems were completely ignored because they were seen as unable to deliver short-term financial returns. Geological maps of that era misrepresented the Sahel as a region depleted of water, creating dependence on imported necessities from outside. Even after independence in 1960, this situation continued. Water projects were often funded by international loans with complicated conditions attached. They allowed only the construction of surface dams, which hydrological science confirms would lose almost all their water to evaporation under the desert's extreme heat. This was not technical incompetence, it was a system designed to maintain water scarcity. Everything changed only when a young generation of leadership emerged. Ibrahim Traoré, who took power at only 34 years old, made a bold move. Despite facing pressure from outside, Traoré understood one core principle: sovereignty cannot be built on promises. It must be built with technical infrastructure. Instead of relying on conditional aid, Traoré carried out a decisive policy: complete self-reliance. He approved a water security plan worth $145 million, funded largely through domestic revenue and national contribution funds. This is the new security doctrine: treat water infrastructure as the top priority. He ordered the restoration of 35 large dams that had fallen into disrepair, and the drilling of hundreds of deep industrial wells. In less than 12 months, the number of new boreholes deployed equaled the total number drilled over the previous 10 years combined. This campaign is not only about finding water. It is about proving that a developing nation can build its own future without being controlled by any great power. To turn that idea into reality, Traoré transformed agriculture into a highly organized national campaign. In May 2024, the world was surprised to see Burkina Faso mobilize a large amount of technical equipment: 400 modern tractors, 239 tillers, and more than 700 high-capacity water pumps. Much of this equipment was purchased through new partners from Turkey, Russia, and China, countries that provide technology without attaching specific political conditions. Instead of leaving farmers alone to struggle against harsh conditions, the government brought machinery directly into security-sensitive areas. The army was deployed to protect irrigation works and drilling rigs in the northern regions, where unidentified armed groups frequently sabotage water sources. Water infrastructure protection units were established. Every industrial borehole is now a strategic position under strict protection. This is the strategy of agricultural initiative. The goal is to eliminate dependence on the rainy season. This project does not focus on small individual households, but on building large farming estates directly connected to groundwater sources. They are turning the dry season, once the hardest time for cultivation, into the most productive season of the year. But to maintain this flow, they had to tap into a scientific secret that had long been overlooked beneath the dust of the Sahel. A study by the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, using nuclear isotope technology revealed a completely different reality. Beneath Burkina Faso's laterite crust lies part of the Liptako-Gourma aquifer system. These are not small water veins, but massive fossil water reservoirs that accumulated thousands of years ago. This water is highly pure, contains no bacteria, and is almost unaffected by climate change on the surface. According to scientists, groundwater reserves in this region are dozens of times larger than all the surface rivers of Africa combined. In neighboring Niger, 50 billion cubic meters of groundwater have been found, enough to meet the needs of an entire nation for hundreds of years. Burkina Faso's deep drilling campaign is the act of activating this forgotten resource. The search does not stop at shallow water layers that are easily lost. While traditional wells reach only about 30 meters deep, Traoré's steel drills have pushed hundreds of meters underground to reach the heart of the Liptako-Gourma aquifer. This is the act of connecting ancient water, thousands of years old, directly to the present. How do you operate hundreds of boreholes in a region with no power grid? The answer lies in solar energy, the only resource more abundant than sand in the Sahel. The government of Burkina Faso has deployed solar panels to run pumps continuously. The system is designed to turn harshness into efficiency. The stronger the sunlight, the more the solar panels produce at maximum output, pushing high-capacity pumps to operate at their full technical limit and pull water from hundreds of meters underground to the surface. This is an efficient cycle. Crops need the most water when the sun is strongest. And that is also when the pumping system works most effectively. This water is then carried through drip irrigation, a technology that saves 70% more water compared with traditional irrigation methods. Every drop is calculated to seep directly into plant roots through high-quality pipes, preventing soil salinization, which often happens when fields are flood-irrigated under extreme heat. More importantly, this system is managed in a decentralized way. Instead of one vulnerable megadam, hundreds of boreholes are protected and operated by 80 local water committees. The farmers themselves, the people who benefit directly, are the ones monitoring this resource. They are trained to repair photovoltaic systems and replace simple pump components. This system ensures both energy security and food security without the cost of fossil fuels, which can account for up to 40% of agricultural production costs in Africa. The results came faster than any international expert had predicted. In 2024, the country harvested a record 6 million tons of grain. Corn production increased by 25%, and sorghum increased by 18% compared with the average of the previous 5 years. This is an impressive number for a region facing many challenges. On New Year's Eve in 2025, an important declaration was made: Burkina Faso had achieved food self-sufficiency. This was a historic milestone for a country once considered completely dependent on international aid. Food self-sufficiency does not only matter for nutrition, it helps Burkina Faso save more than $400 million every year that would otherwise be spent importing rice and wheat flour, creating capital that can be reinvested into modernization. And it does not stop with grain. The new reservoirs are also being used to develop aquaculture. 15 new fish ponds not only provide a low-cost source of protein, but also create thousands of jobs. Catfish and tilapia, species that tolerate heat well, are now being raised in the middle of the desert, a scene that would have been considered impossible only 5 years ago. The combination of groundwater, mechanization, and improved seeds has proven one thing with effective water management: the Sahel can absolutely become an agricultural production center of Africa. Burkina Faso's success is creating major influence across the Sahel region. When a low-income country begins to control its own water and food supply, it sends a challenging message to old powers: we do not need charity. We need scientific fairness. This model is spreading to Mali and Niger, two neighboring countries that have also recently undergone political changes and are forming the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES. Groundwater is becoming the economic foundation for a new alliance resisting Western influence in West Africa. However, exploiting ancient groundwater also carries significant environmental risks. Because this is a non-renewable resource, high-intensity extraction could lead to land subsidence and the salinization of freshwater layers if it is not managed sustainably. The country's next battle will be balancing extraction for the present with preservation for the future. Then there is the political factor. This entire $145 million system is operating based on the stability of Ibrahim Traoré's government. In a country that has experienced multiple political upheavals in recent years, the future of these projects remains a major question mark. Large infrastructure projects in Africa are often tied to the continuity of leadership. If the government changes, these dams and boreholes could easily fall into poor maintenance. Moreover, Burkina Faso's food self-sufficiency is affecting the market share of multinational agricultural corporations. Economic pressure and negative media campaigns are targeting Traoré's model, accusing it of being unsustainable. Finally, there is climate change. The Sahel Desert is not easily controlled. Unusual flash floods caused by extreme weather could destroy fragile irrigation systems in a single night. Burkina Faso is walking a thin line between brilliant revival and environmental collapse. But for the people there, it is a necessary choice. As one farmer in the Dori region said, accepting the risk of extracting water is better than facing certain exhaustion. When we look deep into the wells erupting in the heart of the Sahel Desert, we see a truth larger than irrigation technology. It is a story about changing the way people think. The world called this place hopeless, and people believed it for 60 years. But when the first drilling rigs touched groundwater 2,000 years old, they realized that the most precious resource had never disappeared. It was simply waiting for a generation determined enough to unlock it. Burkina Faso today is not only digging wells, it is building the foundation of independence. If this model succeeds, it will become a blueprint for all of Africa and for drylands around the world. a future where groundwater becomes the key to ending the era of dependence on imported food. The rise of the Sahel from deep wells is the clearest proof of one thing: resources are never truly lacking. Only human will has limits. When a people are determined to overcome adversity, they will find the solution right beneath their feet. What do you think about this approach? Is large-scale groundwater extraction a life-saving solution or an environmental disaster waiting to happen? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to hit like if you found this information valuable. The future of the Sahel is still full of challenges. But at least for now, they have water. Thank you for following this journey.